Video 2 for this week. The Civil War is over, and let the party start. In 3, 2, 1, the confetti and the streamers and the noisemaker and the balloons and oh, yeah. So hey, good news, the Civil War is over. Hey, bad news, we have a whole new set of issues. Good news, we have this guy leading. Oh no, that's also still bad news. Yeah, pretty much it's all bad news, pretty much from here on out for this video. Okay, well, let's get to it, shall we? This is President Johnson. Former Vice President Johnson, Abraham Lincoln, took the bullet to the back of the head, and this guy becomes the president. Political cartoon. There's some really good political cartoons out there for anti-Andrew Jackson. Here's one, little bitty Andrew Jackson in the library, and the caption reads that the little boy, the little boy would be president. Oh no, would persist in handling books above his abilities. And then you see the Constitution lands on top of him. Good times. Okay, so the 13th Amendment is going to be passed in 1865, and the 13th Amendment is, it's pretty straight up. It says, neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, comma, except as a punishment for crime whereof the party shall have been duly convicted, comma, shall exist within the United States or any place subject to their jurisdiction. So, no more slavery or involuntary servitude within the United States, unless you're convicted of a crime. Well, there you go. Slavery's done. You think as soon as they pass that all this... that's not how that works. Emancipation obviously did not come about incredibly quickly. You know, there were a lot of people, former slaves, who were like, no. If I am now free, then how does that work? How do I get a job? Who's going to pay? How am I going to get food? How am I going to get housing? In a very minor way, we deal with that with high school seniors. Okay, congratulations, bye. You graduated, bye. And we have high school seniors that are like, okay, now what do I do? I'm not equating that with slavery, but in a sense, it's a similar idea. So, what did many of the blacks do? Well, they're going to congregate together. They're going to form groups and go to church together. They're going to try to form schools because now it's no longer illegal. Well, it's going to be a little bit illegal for slaves to learn how to read and write. And there we go. Hey, interesting political cartoon here. Just let's see. So the 13th Amendment. You get the rule says you got to have 33 states have to sign off on amendments. That's one of the ways you can get an amendment passed in the Constitution. We'll talk more about that in AP government, but 33 states sign off of it. Well, obviously, all the states are going to sign this one that says there's no slavery in the United States. Obviously, you're going to sign that. In the year 2013, a graduate student was going down through the list, and they noticed, Mississippi had not signed that yet. In the year 2013, had not signed no slavery. We talk smack about our state, but Mississippi, what's wrong with you? So anyway, they finally signed it 148 years later from when it was passed. Mississippi. Terrible football teams, and moving on. By the way, this video is going to be a lot shorter than the last one. The Freedmen's Bureau. Okay, the Freedmen's Bureau, established in March of 1865. And the short version here is that the Freedmen's Bureau is going to be like, what do we call that? Welfare. It's really one of our first welfare programs. They're going to target freed slaves, and so get freed slaves jobs. They're going to get them food, they're going to get them clothing, they're going to get them housing. So in a sense, it's like going down to the department, the welfare department here, downtown. If you're if you need help. And that's kind of, well, that's actually exactly what it is. It's called the Freedmen's Bureau. Clothing, medical care, food, and education, both for freedmen and white refugees. Its biggest success was teaching blacks how to read, because if you know how to read, then you know how to read the newspaper, you know where to, the jobs. Plus, if you can know how to read, and then theoretically you know how to write, and you can communicate, and you can be a person. If you can't read, it's hard to do. Freedmen's Bureau is going to be good until 1872. Now, there are some issues. There's quite a few issues here. Very famous political cartoon. You've got the African Americans over here, and you've got the African Americans here, the angry African Americans here, and then you have the angry white mob here, and the guy in the center, it represents the Freedmen's Bureau, and he's kind of trying to separate them. The argument is that the poor whites who were also devastated by the Civil War, they're not getting the same welfare treatment as the newly freed slaves. There's an argument that says, why should one group get more welfare than another group? Ooh, people got nasty. So here we have a political cartoon. This is actually a flyer, and it says, the Freedmen's Bureau, an agency to keep the Negro in idleness at the expense of the white man. Is it an argument that we have with the welfare system in the year 2020? Well, people on welfare, they just stay on welfare. They're not actually going to, I'm making the argument. I'm not necessarily agreeing with this. They're on welfare, and so therefore, all they do is stay on welfare. They don't go looking for jobs. They just sit at home watching TV, and they're collecting their welfare checks. And so they're keeping them idle. The same argument here is here. The Freedmen's Bureau, it just gives food and clothing and shelter and education to the blacks, the newly created class here. And if you just give those people all that stuff, then why would they ever want to get off their couch? That's the argument. Now, obviously, we know what the other side of the argument is. The other side of the argument is, well, the freed slaves don't have anything. They don't have food or shelter or education, so they need help. Sorry, my phone is going off. Oh, and it's the wife, so I'll be right back. Okay, and so wherever we were on that, sorry for the interruption, we have the political cartoon that says, support Congress and you support the Negroes, sustain the president, and you protect the white man. Oof. The argument here is, for the Freedmen's Bureau, they say that black people are important, that they matter. The poor white people are saying, no, everyone matters. Wait, was I talking about the Freedmen's Bureau, or was I talking about 2020? The Black Lives Matter. Think about that, guys, seriously, right? Black Lives Matter. No, everybody's matters. No, we're not just saying that Black lives only matter. We're just saying that Black Lives matter, and that we haven't been included in that group before. No, everybody's life matters because it's everybody. Well, yes, it's everybody, but when you say everybody, you're not really including us. Well, blue lives matter. Well, teacher lives matter. No, that's not the point. The point is that right? Year 2020, the year 1865. Look, we're arguing about the same thing. Essay question, benchmark. Moving on. President Andrew Johnson, number 17. Lincoln was number 16. Number 17. He came from Tennessee. He's a Tennessean, and he's very unpopular. Let's see. While he was in Congress, Johnson refused to secede with his home state of Tennessee. That's awkward. And then he listed on Lincoln's ticket to get a few votes from the South. So the North people don't like him anyway, and of course the Southern people don't like him because he didn't secede. So nobody really likes this guy. Strong supporter of states' rights, but he also is the president, so he has to support the Constitution. That's going to be an issue. He was a Southerner who did not understand the North, and he was a Democrat who is not understood by the Republicans. And he's the President of the United States. It's about to go downhill really rapidly for Johnson. All right. Reconstruction. So Reconstruction is our short term, which means how do we get the South back into the United States of America? They seceded, and how do we get them to come back? So Lincoln came up with a plan early on in 1863, and his plan was called the 10% plan. The 10% plan basically said, if you take all the voters in the state, say for example South Carolina, you say, all right, you line them all up, and if 10% of them, 10% of the voters agree that they will support the Constitution of the United States, then South Carolina can come back and join the United States, and that their people can come back into Congress. 10%. Okay, that was the plan. That was the plan. The radical Republicans, they said, oh, come on, Lincoln, that's a little low. That's a little low. Can we make it 50%? So it's called the Wade Davis bill. 50%. Lincoln's like, no, that's way too high. So let's see. Lincoln put it at 10%. The radical Republicans put it at 50%. I wonder who won. Well, you'd think, Lincoln, right? Because, oh no, he was shot and killed, so he didn't get a vote anymore. So the 50% is going to be the new line. And then in 1865, Johnson shows up as president. Well, he became president, and he says, no, how about this? We got a new idea. How about this? Each of the states that seceded, they're going to have a state convention, and their state convention would vote to repeal the Confederate state government, and then they would repudiate all CSA debts, so they would get rid of all the South states' debts, and they would ratify the 13th Amendment, which says no slavery. So that was Johnson's plan. And you see, Johnson's plan is pretty easy because you only need so many people in the room to have a convention. So it's kind of similar to the 10%, but then the radical Republicans are going to go, no, we kind of want to punish. We kind of want to punish the South. Speaking of punishing the South, we have black codes. All right, so first of all, let's talk about sharecropping. Sharecropping, the definition. Do I have a definition? I do. Look at that. Sharecropping. The short version here is that. Okay, if you sign the 13th Amendment, says there's no slaves. But obviously these former slave owners, they have to have workers because the cotton, doesn't pick itself. So you got to go hire workers. Well, now who are they going to hire? Well, hey, here's an idea: hire your slaves. The difference is now you have to pay them. They know how to do the work. Now you have to pay them though. So, okay, so sharecropping. You pay these former slaves to work their crops that they've been working all this time. But here's the trick. You also say, since you're living here, you have to pay rent. Okay. I get that. If you're paying them, then they need to pay rent. Oh, but the trick is, it's pretty smarmy. Hey, rent is $10 a month. $10 a month for rent. I'm going to pay you to work out in my fields $9 a month. Yeah, that's what I said. I'm going to pay you $9 a month. Your rent is $10 a month. Which means that, that the former slaves, if they live there, they are going to get further and further and further and further in debt to their former slave master. So the slave master is actually making money off of them. Wow. Oh, it's going to get darker than this. Speaking of darker, evil laws, hey, black codes. So black codes are laws that are written by state constitutions, primarily Alabama, Mississippi, Georgia, South Carolina. that target former slaves. And they can be as simple as, up here it says, a former slave, actually they say, any freedman, mulatto, or free person of color in this state. So freedman, so it's former slave. Mulatto, somebody who has slave blood, white mom, black dad, or vice versa. And then a free person of color. If you're falling to one of those three colors, you are one of those three categories, you're not allowed to have a gun in the state. I know some of you are saying, Second Amendment? I know. We'll get to it when we get to AP government. Oh, hey, how about this one that says, if you are in that category of former slave, and or if you are interacting with former slaves, then, and you don't have a job on the second Monday in January of 1866, and you're caught outside, then you will be deemed a vagrant, and we will either kick you out. I mean, that's like being called a hobo or a bum. We're going to kick you out, or we're going to throw you in jail. Okay. This one says, you can't get married to anybody who's not your color. Can't even make this stuff up. You can't get married to anybody who's not your color. All right. That's a black code. Or black code, black law. And so here's this other one that says, if a white person, so I know you're sitting here going, oh wait, so this targets white people. Well, it does, but it's targeting white people who are interacting with black people. And so here it says, if a white person gives alcohol or a gun or a Bowie knife or XYZ to a black person, then the white person can be fined for interacting. That's right. I can't even make this crap up. That is our country, our laws that we had. Hey, that middle one that says you can't get married to anybody that's not your color, it's a felony, and you can be thrown in jail for life. It actually says that at the bottom. Confined in the state penitentiary for life. Yay, the Civil War's over! Congressional Reconstruction. All right, Republicans, obviously, during the Civil War years, for those years, they were the only ones there in Congress, so they could pretty much pass whatever they wanted to, right? Well, now that the South is coming back, the southern states are putting congressmen back in. So, of course, they're going to start voting against the Republicans, the Democrats in the South, the Republicans in the North, and they're going to start voting against each other. But check this out. The South, of course, the Senate is equal votes for every state. They get 2 votes. But remember, in the House of Representatives, you get proportionate to your population. Well, so New York has a lot of people, and Massachusetts has a lot of people, and et cetera, et cetera. And you think, oh, well, South Carolina doesn't have that many people. But guess what? They just expanded their population by 2/5. By 2/5. And you know why. They just expanded their population by 40%. Why is that? Because the 3/5 compromise is now gone, which means one black person now counts as a full black person, one whole person, right? So instead of counting as 60% of a person, now they count as 100% of a person, and the South just added about 40% to their population totals, which means now they have more population for the House, which means now they have more votes in the House. Ooh, which means that the radical Republicans in the North are not happy. They're not happy. All right. President Johnson, he's going to claim that his plan got passed through and all the states are back together, and the radical Republicans are not happy about that. They're going to say no. We're going to pass a couple of civil rights laws here in 1866. Interesting enough, Johnson vetoed this for a couple of reasons, but an act to protect all persons in the United States in their civil rights and furnish the means of their vindication. So basically, I'm just paraphrasing it. This says, if you were born in the United States of America, if you're like born here, then you're going to be a citizen. Period. You're a citizen if you were born here. It doesn't matter. I'm sorry. Excluding Indians not taxed. So if you're a Native American and you're not being taxed by the government, you're not a citizen. But everybody else is a citizen. It doesn't matter with race and color or previous condition of slavery or involuntary servitude, except as punishment for a crime. And then you have all the rights and responsibilities of citizens. Okay, so that was 1866. They passed that. And now that was just an act. That was just a law. And so to codify that more importantly, they're going to put it into the Constitution. So to do that, you've got to have an amendment, and we have the 14th Amendment. So in the 14th Amendment, which, again, I don't want to jump into AP government, but the 14th Amendment, probably the most important of all the amendments. No, there's no probably. It is the most important amendment. And it says this. I'm just going to read it. It says, all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property, John Locke, without due process of law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. Oh my goodness, we're going to spend 3 months on that in AP government. So it's got a lot of, I can't believe I'm just going to talk about this for like 30 seconds. It's got a lot of stuff in there, but basically that first clause there that says anybody who's born here is a citizen, what Supreme Court case did they just overrule? Yes, Dred Scott, very good. That was my phone going off, and my phone said Dred Scott. Oh, goodness, et cetera, et cetera. Now, part number 3, paragraph 3, what did they say that? Section 3 of the 14th Amendment says, oh, hey, by the way, and nobody ever talks about this, but I mean, we always talk about this one, but nobody talks about this one. But the section number 3 says, by the way, and I'm paraphrasing, if you were part of the South, and you actively campaigned against the North, like you were in the Army, or you were, you had an oath to the Confederate States of America, then in yellow, or shall have engaged in insurrection or rebellion against the same, or given aid to comfort to the enemies thereof, you cannot be a senator or a president or a vice president or a congressperson, or hold any civil or military office under the United States. So you see, that's pretty slick, right? So if you were part of the CSA government, you can't be part of the United States government. So they basically just took the head off of the CSA. Pretty slick. Okay, in March of 1867, the radical Republicans are going to say, Johnson, we don't like your plan. We don't think that the South actually met the rules, so we're going to come up with our own rules, like the 50% rule, that says this is how the states are going to be able to be allowed officially back in the United States. We're going to divide the 10 states of the South into 5 military districts, and you kind of see down here Texas, Louisiana is one, and Arkansas, Mississippi, etc. Okay, you kind of see how it works out. All men are given the right to vote. States must submit a new and approved constitution, so they have to come up with their own Northern approved constitution. States must ratify the 14th Amendment. Okay. And then former Confederate leaders were banned from holding office, which was in the 14th Amendment. Why is my phone going so much? All right. We call these the Civil War Amendments, which are constitutional amendments. The Civil War Amendments. So the 13th Amendment, no slaves. No more slaves. The 14th Amendment, there's so many different things, but equal protection under the laws, due process, equal protection under the laws. And then the 15th Amendment. The 15th Amendment is very simple. If you're a male, you can vote. The right of citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States by any state on account of race, color, or previous condition of servitude. So if you are a former slave, you can vote if you're male. I know. Well, I mean, what happened to the other, 50% of the, the people who are living over here, those XX chromosome people? Yeah, I mean, don't worry, they're going to get to vote in, 55 years. They'll get to vote eventually. All right, so the realities here. The former slaves are going to form unions to help protect themselves. So it says blacks now able to vote, form political clubs, educated members on why they should vote for Republicans, because they thought, well, Abraham Lincoln was a Republican. The Republicans are the ones that did the Emancipation Proclamation. The Republicans are the ones that freed the slaves. So that's the thought process. The union leagues, the black union leagues, built new black churches and new black schools, and they recruited militias to protect themselves from retaliation, because retaliation is coming, right? You know it's coming. A couple different groups of people. We have the Scalawags. The Scalawags. Again, I'm looking through a mirror here. The Scalawags, a Southerner who is seen as supporting Reconstruction. So somebody who lives in the South who's like, we need to join the Union as fast as possible, and that's a lot of people in the South, right after the Civil War, thought these people were traitors. And so today we use the word scalawag as, we don't usually use it for traitors. We're like, oh, he's just a little scalawag, which means some usually like an 8-year-old boy who's running around, just being a scalawag. I don't even know how to say that other than using the word scalawag. Anyway, but that was like a term back then. And then we had the carpetbagger. So a carpetbagger is somebody from the North who goes down into the South to make a profit, because they, after Sherman came through there and tore up everything, a lot of people are hurting down there for money, and a lot of people are hurting for jobs, and a lot of people are hurting for, Maslow's triangle, bottom level. And some of the people in the North said, oh, we can go down there and help them. And some other people in the North were like, hey, we can go down there and help them, right? And those people are called carpetbaggers, because they came down from the North to make money. We still have the term carpetbagger today. We don't talk about people from the North coming to the South. Generally, what we talk about carpetbaggers today is somebody who moves to another part of the country to then get elected. So many examples. A famous one would be in the early 2000s, Hillary Clinton. Okay, so the Clintons, Bill Clinton was president 92 through 2000, and so when they left office, the Clintons' home state is Arkansas. Well, Mrs. Clinton, Hillary Clinton, she moved to New York to get a house there to then run for Senate in New York, and she became the New York senator, even though they lived in Arkansas. I mean, everybody knew they were from Arkansas, but she moved to, right, okay. So that's a carpetbagger. And I'm not just picking on the Clintons, because the Republicans have done that okay. Everybody does it. And now some of you are thinking, wait, that's an interesting idea. I mean, you can almost argue that people, so for example, if we had a student here at, well, we've had it both ways. Somebody from Norman North High School is the third string quarterback at Norman North, right? And so we know that their first string quarterback is going to go D1, Division I school, and their second string quarterbacks, they're backup, and they're probably going to go to a D1 school, like OU, OSU, whatever, Ohio State, et cetera, but the third string quarterback goes, man, I'm never going to get a chance to play. So what do? they start looking around the city, and they say, well, maybe I can go and be the first string quarterback somewhere else. And so they come to Western Heights. They become the first string quarterback because, well, we didn't have a quarterback. And so they come here, and now the scouts come out and they see this kid who was a third stringer is now the first string over here in a different part of the city. You see how that works? That's carpetbagging. That's carpetbagging. Has that ever happened, Dr. Jones? Yeah. The Ku Klux Klan. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this slide because we're going to spend more time with them later, I think actually in the next video or maybe 2 videos from now. The KKK, right? The Ku Klux Klan. They're going to be formed in Tennessee in 1866. They're called the Invisible Empire of the South. And so we will talk much more about them later, but they are anti-Catholic, anti-Jew, anti-black, anti-immigrant, all right, so we'll get to them later. But disgruntled whites feeling left out by the black legislation, and then resistance through intimidation. And again, we'll do more about these people later. The military bill allowing blacks to come into the military, and you have the 2 different responses. The happy African American and the former Confederate soldier who's like, what is going on with my life? Political cartoons, they're pretty crazy. The radical Republicans, again, they're not big fans of, well, nobody's a big fan of President Johnson, but they really hate Johnson. And so they wanted to have a spy in his cabinet. So they tapped Secretary of War Edwin Stanton as their spy. And so they wanted to put him into the cabinet. And so he's in there. Now here's the deal. Johnson knew that he was a spy. And so Johnson threatened to fire him. Well, that was precedent, right? Because President Washington said, I don't have a problem with Congress, because in the Constitution it says Congress, well, the Senate will advise and give consent to the president's appointees. But President Washington said, yes, you can vote whether they can come in, but I can fire them. I can fire them. And so President Washington set the precedent. Andrew Johnson says, well, I'm the president. I'm going to fire this guy because he's a spy. The radical Republicans quickly passed a new rule called the Tenure of Office Act. The Tenure of Office Act of 1867 says a president cannot fire somebody from their own cabinet without approval from the radical Republicans. So if Johnson fires this guy, then he's breaking the law. So Johnson fires this guy. And if you break a law, then you are guilty of a misconduct and or a misdemeanor, according to the Constitution. And that is an impeachable offense, which means we're going to put you on trial, and that means that if the trial is successful, then we're going to vote to kick you out. So, yes, Andrew Johnson is going to be impeached. And his testimony is that he did it on purpose. He fired Stanton on purpose because he thought that the act, the Tenure of Office Act, was unconstitutional. And how do you get to prove it's unconstitutional? It has to go to court. Well, how do you get it to go to court? You have to have somebody sue somebody. And so what did he do? He sued the Republicans when he was impeached. So, right? The whole thing, right? They did have a trial, and the vote was one short of getting rid of the guy. So, of being found not guilty. Johnson, the first president to be impeached. Impeached means that he was put on trial. He was not removed from office, though. He didn't have enough votes to be removed. A couple of reasons why. One, some of the Republicans were like, this is kind of smarmy. I don't know if we're doing this correctly. And there's another group that said, yeah, but if we get rid of him, look who the next guy up, Ben Wade. He's even worse. So let's just keep this guy. So again, he was missed being removed by one vote. Again, here we have one group of the government that is a different political party than the president. They're going to come up with a random charge to impeach the president over something that, he fired somebody who's in his cabinet. Oh no, we're going to get rid of him. Can we make any connections with the year 2020? Essay question. We don't like him, so let's accuse him of talking to the Russians. And let's impeach him. It's a cycle. It's just a cycle. Essay question. All right, moving on. Hey, on a lighter note. Wait, did I miss anything on that? No. Okay, on a lighter note. We bought Alaska in 1867. 1867, we bought it. Well, that's a big year. We bought Alaska from the Russians. The Russians wanted to sell it because, so think about that side of the map, and you have California, Oregon, Washington. Then you draw that line, that parallel, and then you have Canada, and then you come across and there's Alaska. Well, Canada at this point is owned by England. And Russia, because it's not the Soviet Union yet, Russia is going to say, we don't actually like to have borders like touching with England for various reasons. And so they sold us Alaska. Because, really it's just a big old snowy, mountainous iceberg up there, right? And so we bought it for, $7.2 million. It was, a lot of people are like, why in the world are we spending that much money for a big giant chunk of ice up there in 1867. William Seward was the Secretary of State, and we call it Seward's Folly, which means his mistake. And here we have the Russian-American piece of ice, and here we have, interestingly enough, Abraham Lincoln talking to the Russian bear about Alaska. Seward's Folly. Can't believe we spent that much money in 1867. $7.2 million. Oh, when did we find gold in Alaska? Was it 1868? Sucks to be you, Russians. Should have waited a year. Just kind of like the Mexican Cession. We found gold in California the year after. Oh, man, the United States of America, we are lucky. Plus, all the polar bears and grizzly bears. I'm done with this slide. Last slide. See, I told you it was short. The heritage of Reconstruction. So, Abraham Lincoln is the one that freed the slaves. Abraham Lincoln is a Republican. You would think that, at least people who are paying attention to their American history teachers, that black America would say, oh, well, he's the one who freed the slaves, so therefore we should vote Republican. But as you know, in the year 2020, the majority of African Americans, they vote Democrat. And why is that? Well, one of the arguments is because of Reconstruction. Reconstruction arguably made some people's lives worse. You took a slave who was, even though they were a slave and they didn't own themselves, at least they had Maslow's triangle, the bottom level, maybe even the second level, maybe even the third level ready to go. But then you take that away from them, and then you put all this Reconstruction down their throat. And even though we have the Freedmen's Bureau and trying to help them out, a lot of former slaves, their lives got worse after the Civil War. And so who do you blame for that? Well, you blame the Republicans because they're the ones who are trying to do the Reconstruction. So we're going to flip the vote, and the African American vote, the black vote, is going to flip to Democrats. I know, it's all confusing. Let's see, we have a couple political cartoons. Oh, hey, here we have a Republican riding an African elephant, which has a slave face. The Republican riding an elephant. Republican elephant. I'm sure there's something significant about that, but all right, guys. Catch you on the flip side. See you on Zoom. Be good. You know the drill.